Previously on the Hot and Cold podcast.
I can hear myself think, man.
I think I was probably hustling.
I really think that they should go back to the powder blue unis full time.
I love the powder blue units.
They are so stinking cool.
Aggie, huh? Whoop! 3, 2, 1. David Baker, thanks for coming on, man.
You bet.
Let's immediately, I wanted to, for the first 15-second viewers that watch and click off, now they got your 15 seconds. You make pins now, right? You make...
It's just a hobby, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
There's no money in it because by the time, as much time as I put into them,
Right.
you know, I'm losing money, you know. But
like a custom pin?
And these are custom. You know, in fact, I brought you one.
Oh, dude, come on.
I did. This, you know, I know you've got a brother that's in the military and stuff. Now,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what he was in, but now this particular one, I brought you is very special. This one is a Navy, you know, and
Wow.
so it's really cool because the wood is a blue maple that's been pressure treated with a blue dye, so it's down and looks like waves in the ocean and stuff.
That is so
And
cool,
so-
man. No, that is amazing. So,
And so I make all kinds. And so David's on Facebook.
yeah.
David's Pins and Wood.
Okay.
And so you can go in there and then you click on the photos and you look and you can see all different kinds of pins, whether it be like some are a click pin, some of them are like bolt action 30 caliber. Man, it's been in my truck for a little while. There it goes. And so
Brand new
these are
pin.
really good quality. And you can change them out. They're Parker refills and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they're really good quality pins. I have some that are,
That's got some weight to it.
oh, yes. In fact, there was
The
one bolt
design.
action I sold to a guy. He goes, yeah, you can use this to kill somebody with.
Nice. Yeah.
You
Or
know.
hunt, right?
And so I have some that are bolt action. They have deer heads on them and deer antlers. And,
What's a bolt action pin?
well, if you go to the Facebook, you can see,
see
it.
it.
You can see it. It's a bolt. It has it's a 30 caliber pin. Bolt has on the very tip of it like a bullet,
Yeah.
30 caliber.
Yeah.
And then on the side, it's a little bolt action like a gun.
You're kidding me.
It looks like a gun. That's
Yeah.
the part you click goes into.
David's Pins and More.
No, pins and wood. Let me get
David Pins and Wood.
David's-
David's Pins and Wood. I'll make sure.
David's Pins and Wood. In fact, here's your little card, and you can
Perfect.
put that on there.
I'm going to put that on when I edit the video.
Okay.
So I guess I had to.
And I make shaving equipment as well. The old-fashioned, you know, like the safety razors or
wow.
the new Gillette Mach 5, but also the little Wolverine tail
Okay.
brushes, and along with a stand and everything. So when different kind of exotic woods, whether it be from olive wood, from over in the Holy Lands.
No way.
Oh yeah, I have the authentic
Yeah.
presentation pieces of
That show it's
that
authentic.
show it's authentic.
Yeah.
And or from oak to black walnut,
Yeah.
zebra wood, just all kinds of crazy woods that I have.
What got you into that, man?
I've been doing woodwork since
Piddling
high
around?
school.
Okay.
I mean, I took 2 years of wood shop. I built clocks and
Yeah.
different stuff.
You know, I was in the era for probably 20, 30 years where wood shop wasn't a thing. I think it's back now. They have a type of woodwork in the high schools now, but we didn't. That would have been cool. I buy saws now that I try to work with and do things with, but it's all new to me. I kind of wish I could have had that in high school.
Well, I've got a full wood shop at home where I've got, the band saws, the
Yeah,
radial arm saws, table saws, planers, joiners.
all the way. Cars outside,
Yeah,
it'd
I
be
can hear
making
it.
a noise.
I can hear it.
They'll cut that off. Okay, so let's jump into this, man. The first thing I saw it, and then I realized you've always had that. You have the Aggie shirt on,
Well,
and then I flashed back and remember, as long as I've known you, you've worn and supported Aggie.
Well, and that's because I have 5 kids that have all gone down there and gone to Aggie Land, and they married
Aggies as well.
Now, I say 5. You're only aware of 4.
I was about to say-
remarried, and
Okay.
so he
You had
has
another
gone
kid.
down there.
Okay.
And we didn't have. She had one.
Yeah.
And so you're aware of Zach, Nick, Brianna, and Deanna, the
Yeah.
twins.
Yeah.
And so yes, all of them went to A&M.
Wow.
And they all married Aggies.
Wow.
And so that's a lot of them.
Surrounded.
And so we have 10 grandkids.
Yeah.
And so then we have great Christmas and Thanksgiving parties and all that kind of stuff.
So my brother was an Aggie.
Yes.
And I've told the story a few times. Growing up, it's UT. I mean, that's just what it is. UT Longhorns. I mean, it's the more popular thing, I guess. And
From
Dad,
whose standpoint?
well, and
It's your house, you mean?
it was just well, Dad didn't go to UT. It was just the University of Texas. That's as much as you can explain it. And then after the sports excitement kind of died out, and Clay went to A&M, and I'm going, I think I'm a bigger A&M fan than UT. And sure enough, I mean, I'm going to say most of the solid, good people I know are A&M graduates. And that's a common thing amongst them. And
Well,
even now working with kids, some of them that commit to go to A&M, they're some of the brightest, smartest kids I've met. Pretty
Well,
cool.
if you don't know them, then you would just wind up calling them boss.
Boss.
That's the story I've heard anyway.
I could agree with that, and that's and if I look at the ones, a lot of them are boss, and so very common.
Well, they have very good alumni. They support each other, and
That's part of it,
very,
right?
very-
The alumni, you call it a soror or a fraternity type, but that brotherhood almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as big as UT. Do you know? I mean, what's the size of?
I don't know the numbers
Numbers.
now. I mean, you
Yeah.
can look it up. It's the campuses.
1 million.
The campuses are huge.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been down there before.
It's a whole city.
But it's huge. They've got what was, and then they got the tracks. They've gone
Yeah.
over into another area, and then they've gone over. I mean, A&M is now A&M Qatar. Zach went over there and helped them set up A&M Qatar.
No way.
And so
didn't
he
know
was
that.
over there for 3 years while they were building the university, and he helped set up some of the infrastructure
As a student or as
No,
a higher
no.
business?
as a
He got
hired
to do it.
consultant
No way.
to go over there and help do the infrastructure and the computer systems. He worked over there. And so it was kind of cool.
Very awesome. I'm so excited every time I see that shirt now. It's funny how that was not a thing before. I don't know why that transited. I guess just I have no affiliation to UT, but I do have affiliation to A&M. And a while ago, you're on the phone with our buddy James Kane. You're talking about coaching, and I tried to link it up. I know you coach, but I can't pinpoint it. So what? Tell me how you link that. I know you
Well,
because
okay.
Kane had
Okay,
the
so
Thunderbolts, and that was my brother's age in them.
well, and I coached him as well. So, I'd be honest with you, I don't remember all the names because I
Sure,
coached so
yeah.
many years.
Yeah.
I played baseball and football all the way through high school.
Yeah.
And did very well. In fact, I tried out for the White Sox.
Really?
Yeah, and so, but I got married and had kids instead. So I kind of went down that path and thinking with the wrong head. But anyway, life happens.
Yeah.
And so about the same time went off and I when I was 29, I had my accident right before I turned 30. So at that point in time, my boys were in playing softball or baseball rather, and I was playing softball and racquetball and all these other things, but I was coaching my kids, and at that same time, James Kane was coaching his kids, and Jay Strickland was coaching his,
Wow.
and that mine were we were all playing the same time. We had soapbox derby going on.
No way.
I mean, my kids were into just about everything.
You can imagine. So I did. So I feel like I was with soccer for a while, And then about second or third grade, I basically gave it up to start playing basketball.
Okay.
My parents put me in t-ball for 1 year, but after the first game, I was in the stands talking with the parents, and they're like looking for me every time it was my turn to bat. You know, they're like, "This one's not going to work out for t-ball."
That happens.
And so I remember your kids being a part of it. I remember you being around, and I was trying to see if maybe there was a specific deal, but it was just always. I mean, think of so.
Well, I coached for about 10 or 12 years. I think 10, 11 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And so in 1989 is when I got electrocuted. And
89.
89.
God, we were
So
I was
in
7.
August of 89.
Wow.
And so when I got electrocuted, my kids were kind of like, you know, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
And so they were, of course, I was kind of wondering that myself because
Yeah.
here I was, a very good athlete, a person that was involved in everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, I came back, I was very kind of depressed of here,
So
here
let
I
me
am, you know.
let me introduce that if you don't mind.
Sure.
I have since seen the Rescue 911 clip. You know, like I think one time I actually just, as an adult, investigated just to kind of know. But 1989, 4 kids, twins, you're cruising on a road trip with a family. As a good Christian leader, I think that's important to say. And that's how I know you, through church, more than anywhere else. Your kids were all similar age, but I saw you guys interacted with you guys because of church. But I'll say, as a Christian leader, you decide to pull over and help a stranded motorist, or accident maybe had happened.
Right.
And in that process, got touched up by an electrical wire.
Right.
Changed your life completely.
Correct.
Wow.
Right. In fact, you can still find that on YouTube. If
YouTube,
you
Rescue
search
911.
for Rescue 911, episode 111, double electrocution. So
Yeah, I'll definitely probably put a link on that. I can probably look at
Okay.
a link on the.
And so if you search for that, you can find it, and there will be a part 1 and a part 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty long series. So anyway, during that, I wound up, after I'd rescued one, stabilized one gentleman, I went to help out in another one.
What made you decide to jump out and help?
There's nobody else there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way I was raised.
Yeah.
What you do.
Well, you keep driving down an endless road
Yeah.
while they're in the back.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, you know, what happened is I saw the people hurt and everything. I'd passed a call box about a mile back, went back, called 911, and I was trained in first aid CPR.
Oh, good.
And the reason I was trained is because my kids at the YMCA wanted to swim and do all their kind of stuff, and there wasn't always a lifeguard.
Wow.
So
Wow.
they said, well, if you were trained, you kids could swim. Okay, what does the dad do?
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
gets trained. And so I went back and stabilized one and went to work on the next one.
So you had the whereabouts to go back, call 911, and then go help.
Right.
That's so cool. I don't blame anybody for just jumping out of the car and helping, but to actually say it's going to be far superior to go call 911. Remember, this is an 89.
Right.
I doubt you had a cell phone.
Right.
You might have had a beeper, but beepers don't dial out, right? So you go back, stabilize, you're helping out.
Right. And there's a lot of moisture in the air, and you don't know, this was a 30, this is 34,500 volts of electricity. This went into 48,500. I'm sorry. This is going into a naval air station.
Okay.
So this is high voltage going in here. And the tree is the upper part, and it broke that off, and it came down to the ground, but it didn't touch the ground. And so these are still live wires buzzing, hanging out here, and they were up high enough that it should have been okay, but there was enough moisture in the air. The wind was blowing just right, or whatever. Anyway, apparently it swung down enough. I didn't touch them.
I was
You
about
don't
to
have
say, how.
You don't have to. You just came in enough that it arced, and it arced in through the top of my cap, and then went through my body into the ground. And so what happened is I've got the hat I had on had a little bitty pin, a hole about the end of that pin
Yeah.
in the top of it, and then my socks were just basically melted to my leg where
Wow.
it came out that. So it basically traveled through my whole body.
Jeez.
And then they sent out some paramedics and stuff, and they got stuck in the mud on the way out.
On the way-
And
okay.
So then, after they're working on me, I was totally lost it. I thought I didn't know what I was
Yeah,
doing.
they're responding to an accident, by the way, not an electrical shock on the side of the road, right?
So they're trying to get me out from under the wires and get me up, get me done and what fixed. They sent a helicopter out and they got moved somewhere else. But anyway, they took me to a little town called Fallon, which was about, I think it was 20 miles away.
Yeah.
And they said, we can't do anything with him, blah, blah, blah. So they took me by fixed wing aircraft to Reno, about 50 miles away. Because this was all about 70 miles away
Yeah.
from Reno.
Yeah.
And so they took me to Reno. And I was there approximately 5 days before I actually came back to Dallas. And I had a good friend named Gary Osada, who now is living in Colleyville, I believe.
Okay.
And anyway, he fronted the money. He's a guy I played softball with and everything else, really good guy. And he fronted the money up to get me back here. Said, no, we want him back here. The insurance company wanted to send me out to San Francisco burn unit.
Oh, wow.
And because I'd had this big hole in my head or burn and then burns on my leg.
Yeah.
And the doctor I'd had passed away, so I was in between doctors. So they were like, what do we do with this guy?
Yeah.
And so they said, we want him back. So
Some type of medical transport. From,
yes, and
yeah.
so they took me it's a Learjet basically. So they flew me by Learjet back here. Well, on that day, things just started going bad. I mean,
Okay.
my body started shutting down, and I became totally paralyzed from the neck down. And they thought I was goner. They really
Yeah.
thought I was a goner.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about when you get electrical shock, is it's like a microwave. You get burned from the inside out. You really can't see what all's going on.
Yikes.
And so my nerves were kind of damaged, and mylar sheath, was what covers the outside part of it, were burned. And it's kind of like trying to call next door, but you're routed through China. So it's really kind of messes you all up. So it started there, and I was in the hospital for 3 months. And mainly for the rehab and the 13 surgeries kind of pieced me all back
Wow,
together.
yeah.
And I had a lot of cosmetic surgery on my head, deep breathing, getting all the dead stuff out.
Yeah.
I had to grind my head down to the bone. It was all a big mess up there, and I had to grind it all down to what they call bleeding bone,
Yeah.
where the bone actually had good live tissue, and all the black stuff was gone, all
No
the dead
way.
stuff was gone. Yeah, I got a lot of gory pictures at home.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're interested.
Nice
But,
little album.
yeah. So anyway, it went through all that process.
All right, real fast. Is your hair real?
Oh, my hair is everything. All it's real.
Everything
If you want
cool.
to put your hand up, you can feel it. There's a big old dent.
Lucky dog.
And yeah, I can't say it for yourself. And now it's starting to go thin a little bit, and once it's all gone,
Okay.
I don't need any costumes for Halloween. It looks like Frankenstein up here. Got a big dent.
Nice.
Okay,
Okay.
and and a big scar. But luckily, the Lord's given me enough hair to hang on.
Hang
So it's
on,
turned
yeah.
gray versus turning loose, right? So anyway, so I was there 3 months, had 13 surgeries, pieced me all back together. But the biggest part was trying to I lost it all. My nerves I couldn't hold a glass. I couldn't sit up, couldn't roll over.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to crawl and walk and sit up and do all this.
Was
And
that because of atrophy or because of
nerve damage? It
Nerve
was nerve
damage.
damage. It was a head injury.
wow?
And so it was a head injury. It's just like people having spinal cord and head injuries. You see that from the war or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So
How long did it take? I guess maybe there's a step process. So, to where you were, did you go to a wheelchair well before you were walking? I guess what I'm getting at was there a? I mean, obviously at first you're still just recovering. Period.
well, I mean, the second or third day, I was walking around like everything was normal.
oh
And
really?
then it all went to atrophy.
That's when it went down.
And it went on the 5th day. It's like I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything.
That's amazing.
And then it took 3.5 months in the hospital, then a year and a half of rehab.
Okay.
I was on a cane.
yeah.
So then on the cane, once I developed that, I was actually in good shape. Now, I'm 61 years old.
Yeah.
I just had my 4th back surgery in January. And so
4th back surgery. I mean, recently.
yes,
Or, yeah.
this last January.
Yeah.
And so where they fused my joints in my lower back.
And that's even though
And
it's
the
recently,
reason
it's
that,
from,
right, and that's because because my gait is messed up.
Yeah.
And because of the electrical shock and everything, my backs, my muscles, I'm considered an incomplete quad.
Okay.
I have, you know how when you go to sleep on your arm or your leg and it gets tingly?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's me from the neck down 24/7.
Really?
Yeah.
Half asleep.
Yeah. And it's really not fun.
David, could you, if you wanted to, just be in a wheelchair all the time and not do anything? I mean, if you wanted to, I know you're.
No, I
think
mean, that's not me, but yes, that's what, if I didn't work hard, that's what I would be.
and that's part of my point. I mean, and that's why I'm astonished by all this. I mean, you could just give up more or less.
Somebody,
and be
right. Somebody could give up and just be in a chair.
Yeah.
Right.
And do your
But
life
that's
that
right,
way.
but that's not who I am.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
And so I worked hard, and so after a year and a half, I actually went back to work on a work arrangement program back at Vought, and I was there for another 17 years. And
Wow,
then
I didn't know that. Very cool.
or another 7.5 years. There, a total of 17 years.
Yeah. So
And
late.
then I went to work for a couple different companies, about 3 or 4 years. I wound up in the last job I worked for 9 years in Irving as an operations manager.
Okay.
And we rebuilt circuit breakers, that kind of stuff. But I was an operations manager, kind of like a vice president, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. And I really enjoyed that job.
So are you retired or are you still doing it?
I'm retired
Yeah.
because just the pain and all the stuff and
Sure.
everything else. So I'm retired at this point.
Yeah. So let's go back to the decision to not be in a wheelchair, right? I mean, and this is what I admire about it. I mean, your physical rehab is not just show up, do a few exercises, and go home.
Just got through with this last rehab from this back surgery.
Yeah.
Been doing it for
And you were in a chair?
9 months, basically. And so I had the surgery in January and then started rehab 3 days a week at home. I started it. And then after about a month or so, I went to TMI Sports, love that place. And
TMI Sports.
over in Arlington.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Heard of them.
It is. It's a great place. It's a place for athletes. I say athletes. They do a lot of stuff for the Rangers and the hockey teams, and the sport, the athletic
Yeah.
places. And so if you want to work your rear end off and you want to see athletes work their rear end off, then
Yeah.
it's a good place to go because they have basketball courts, they have an outdoor track, they have they'll do everyday people. But for guys like me who are
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, there's rehab to just your average Joe, but then athletes, their whole lives have been pushing themselves and trying to be better. And so we're hitting it hard at TMI. I mean, this is a good point.
Yeah, because getting back is working out. That was like my gym. Kind of
Yeah.
going over there and going to TMI was kind of like being my gym, going over there and working out. And so that was really good for a guy who enjoys sports, who enjoys going out and doing all that kind of stuff. Was really look forward to that every week. Because I am not the guy who wants to sit around and do nothing or be a TV slob butt or whatever else.
Yeah, man.
And so,
Well, straight up, that's how you die. You go watch TV all day. And they say, I think it's some deal like if you retire at 65, you die by 67, like 80% of people. But if you retire at 68, you live another 20 years. I mean, there's like a statistic that's real. And it's because people that retire as soon as they can, they're done with working, with respect to anybody who's retiring early. they sit around and do nothing because that was their goal.
Well, I've got hobbies and all kinds. I mean,
Well-
I like a lot of work hard. I'm a guy that likes to work hard,
Absolutely.
and so.
And that's a general
it's
assumption
not
on-
that. I don't want to work. It's just my body doesn't want to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, when I go over there to work out and I see other people work out, I have people come up to me all the time and say, "Man, I watch you work out. You're such an inspiration to go work, to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of watching you work out.
Yeah.
You know, and you inspire me." And I'm like, "Well, thank you." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm glad I'm inspiring you, but I'm not doing it for you." You know,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you know, it's like, and I enjoy working hard and doing all that, and because it just makes me feel better. But I also know that if I don't, I just won't last.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I push it the best I can.
Wow.
You know, and it was the same thing when I came home from the hospital. It was like, oh man, you know, I'm laying there in bed. I'm thinking, God, why didn't you go and take me?
Yeah. I get it. I get it, man. I'm sorry. I don't get it, but I've had thoughts like that. You know what I mean? And so,
When you're, you know, when you're a really good athlete, you're going, God, man, why didn't you just take me? And then I had a good coach friend of mine said, well, you got 4 kids.
yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, 89, I was 7 years old. And so Zach and Nick probably 8 and 9 or 10, and then Brianna and Deanna,
Deanna and Brianna.
Deanna and Brianna were a year younger than me, right?
Yeah.
So this is my age, and I can only imagine not having my father for the last 20, 30 years. And so 7 years old, golly, that's 30 years. And
Yep.
that's why. And not only you just simply being there, the inspiration you provided to them to be better people.
Well, and they didn't know that at the time, but yes.
Oh, sure,
But
sure.
they didn't really care. They didn't know, you know, it doesn't really matter whether you were in a wheelchair or not. You know, they just being there, that's all they wanted was dad.
Absolutely.
You know,
But seeing
so-
your hard work, your perseverance, one of my biggest memories of my father is him sitting at his desk. We had a long hallway in the room in the back, and anytime we walked by that hallway, looked down the desk that was about the time he was going back to law school.
Right.
And he was just sitting there reading. I mean, that was the majority of my time. I can look down that hallway and seeing him reading. And anytime I think about succeeding or doing something more, I think about having to just sit down in silence and read a book.
Right.
Guess what? Those two link exactly. It could have been something else that I linked up to. And so that's why. You know what I mean? Now they know they can have all kinds of excuses to not excel.
And even though you're right, and even though we don't always, even today, don't always agree on everything and don't always see eye to eye on everything.
can only
And
imagine.
we still have our ups and downs as kids and fathers and parents do.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things, but we have have had a lot of good times.
Yeah.
You know, and you coach them and stuff. But, you know, at that very moment, it was like, well, that's the reason is you need to be there for them to make sure that, you know, and so forth. And even, and so it's like, okay, well, we can always turn to dad when we need something and when we want something. And you're there to make sure that they go to church and that they're raised
Yeah.
right. And they all went to church. They all became Christians, and all the kids are going to be Christians. And so that made a huge difference in their life.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was able to share that with, while I was coaching baseball, I had a gentleman that was thinking about taking his life. And I shared that with him, and that made a difference.
Good.
You know, and so he, you know, because it wasn't about him and it wasn't about his wife leaving him. It was about him and his kids and that relationship. And so understanding that made a difference in him and that what he had to think about at that point in time is that he needed to be there for his kids. You know, and so that made the difference.
Honestly, I wrote my will today. Okay, and it's kind of crazy. It's not an official will, but I was looking for a property, and it had all kinds of. The lady didn't have a will, and you had all kinds of things going on with this. And I thought, man, I have a few homes, I have a few assets. This needs to be straightened out. So I wrote it today. After writing it, I'm like, I'm just telling everybody to do with all these things. What's my message to the world? And I wrote in my will, live for others. I mean, And I think that's what a lot of this comes back to. When you're, yeah, we got to take care of ourselves. And you want to walk and you want to compete and you want to be in that element. But you were having that argument with yourself. Why didn't he just take me? And it's for your kids, for everybody, for all the people around you. I find that powerful. Bob Marley is the hippie pot smoker, but his deal says live for yourself, you'll live in vain. Live for others, you will live again. And I love that. And so I like how you. I'm going to pause that because I want to ask one more thing about the rehab. When you work out, is this a very specific workout to what you need to be stronger in what you have hurt, or are you just chest and arm, back and bicep, whatever, legs, or
Well, it's a
little bit of both.
multi-workout.
Yeah.
And so when I went to PT, I learned a specific workout that helped with my strengthening my body core
yeah,
in my lower back. And
Wow.
that's because that's where I'm the weakest, is my lower back.
that's where it hit.
And so my core, getting my core strengthened is specific. And so it's actually can be done on the mat, a mat type workout.
Okay.
And then
You ever do yoga?
and then, well, part of it is kind of a stretchy thing, but the other part is swimming.
Oh,
So
wow.
swimming
Yeah.
actually uses a lot of different muscles and works on your breathing. And so I start off with swimming. And so I'll swim some laps, and so that's why I go to certain time periods so I get some laps in
Yeah.
and do that first.
Wow.
And then I'll move to do some mat work. And in the mat work, I'll work on body core exercises. I'll start off with some stretching type, yoga type stuff,
Yeah.
some stretching, and then I'll do some core stuff. And then I'll move into weights. And I don't really do any free weights. Most of them are all mechanical weights.
Yeah.
And I'll do the mechanical weights, and then I'll actually stand up and do some ball throws
Okay.
into the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's for balance work. And then I'll get on at the end, I'll finish up with just bicycle, with trying to get some leg work going on. And so it's
how
about
long?
3 hours.
3 hours. I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Wow.
including the swimming, it's about 3 hours,
Beginning to end, 3 hours, and 3 times a week.
3 times a week. Well, yes, unless Fridays I play golf with my pastor. I did that this last
I was
week.
like, let's
my
go.
first time.
Let's go there.
It's my first time.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I had this back surgery is it had been 6 years basically since I'd played golf.
Yeah.
And I was my son, Cheryl's son, Robert, wanted me to help him play golf. And so I hadn't been played it since, because I'd been hurting so much.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let's go out. And so let me teach you how to get the basic swing to help you. And
Yeah.
so I was teaching him how to swing the ball and hit it, and so he could play better golf, right, or learn how to hit the golf ball at least. Anyway,
How old is he?
he's in college. He was in college at the time.
Yeah.
He's out of college now. He's in the Marine, or not the Marines. He's in the Navy.
Oh, very cool.
He's a nuclear submarine guy. So
You put nuclear in front of anything, it's kind of impressive.
yes. So so he went and he graduated with what do you call that?
I don't know, engineer grad. You went to A&M.
Yes.
Honors.
No. It's the guys who.
Corpsman.
No, he was in the Corps.
Oh, cool.
He was in the Corps.
Yeah.
He's the only one in the Corps, but
That's the true brainwashing.
yes, he drank Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
But he had to, because he got the scholarship, and part of it was being in the Corps.
Okay.
But the 5-year degree where you have to, what do you call those engineers? Aerospace engineering. That's it. Aerospace engineering.
That's what Clay did.
And
Wow.
so, yeah,
Very cool.
Aerospace engineering. Well, and the problem is when you go in aerospace engineering and you go down that path, he wanted to fly, but he was too smart. So they make him go into become a nuclear sub guy.
You're too smart to fly.
Yes,
It's like, is that a compliment or is that?
yes.
That's a good thing.
And so he's too smart to fly. You got to go be a nuclear sub guy. So
Clay puked too much. That's why he couldn't do it.
well, that wasn't the issue. He was
Yeah.
too smart. He made too good of grades. So anyway, So he's going down that path. But he wanted me to teach him to hit golf balls a little bit.
Okay.
So we were out there, and he was teaching him. So then I was swinging some, and out of one bucket of balls, I wound up on the ground 4 times.
Really?
With pain.
Yeah.
And so
It just
that's why I had the back surgery.
okay.
This last back surgery, because it was hurting so bad, and the nerves were hitting, and it would actually take me all the way to the ground.
How about that?
And so when I went over there and I saw my doctor over there at TMI, he's one of the doctors over there.
Yeah.
And he said, I think we figured it out, and it's the same surgery that Tiger Woods had.
Huh.
And so I said, great, we have it. I'll be able to hit as good as he does.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
So, yeah, okay. And so we had the surgery back in August, but then it didn't really go that well. And after 3 months, there were still some problems going on. So we
Yeah.
went back in and redid it in January. So after this, at 3 weeks, I was as good as I was at 3 months
No
in
way.
recovery. Yeah.
No way.
So it was a lot more successful.
So the two.
So, having said all that, went out. So there's been 6 years, and I've played basically 3.5 rounds
Yeah.
of golf now. And this last Friday, because usually I started playing on Thursday with some guys at church.
Okay.
And this last week, I was playing with Bill Scar,
Yeah.
First Baptist Church pastor, and I had one of the best games I've played in a long time.
Wow.
And yes,
It's funny
Now,
when
I did take plenty of pain pills, but
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So shooting 18 holes of golf with your pastor after 6 years of like pain and suffering and getting it fixed, you had to feel pretty good, I imagine, right?
It was great. It was
Yeah.
a great day. It was,
Like
the weather was good. It was great. I shot great golf.
I'm not going to shoot that good at golf, but I think I'm getting to a point where I'm ready to start playing some golf. And so you're kind of
I
inspiring
guess
me.
we'll have to go play.
Oh, my only deal is I think summer I'm out. I think that's the thing. is
Too
when-
hot or what?
Yeah, I'm good. And you know, it's not always the heat; it's the sun itself. I'm all about getting in the sun, but when it's all day long, I just
For 4 hours.
I can
Well,
I can feel it.
Well, you know, Clay,
cooking.
and I was that way before.
Yeah.
I never picked up a golf club before I got hurt.
Okay.
So I never played golf before because it was
Yeah.
always too slow, too long,
Yeah.
too hot, too whatever. You know, I fished and I played other sports, but I never played golf before because it was always just what,
Yeah.
you know. And so
Suddenly, when you're halfway
when I
decent at
can't
it,
do anything, well, no, I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
But golf, and you don't have to run. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to have physically run or do those other kind of things.
yeah,
You know, I can barely walk, and so, but you know, that's about the only sport you can do where you stand there and use just your upper body.
yeah,
You know, you don't have to have, you know, I can't twist my body because of all those back surgeries.
yeah.
I can't do all that, and I have to take pain pills to do what I do.
Yeah.
And I can't do it all the time. So but
Few in between. Well, I'm glad you're doing it. I think this is a good transition. Like before I went back to it was Bill Scar and First Baptist. I got a lot. I don't want this will be. I don't want to get too far spread, but one, I'd like to know. I know how influential it is for me. I'm very involved in my church. I work with the youth. Okay,
That's great.
I link that back to when I was in the youth, and I think of Dennis Seeley and Phil McLaughlin,
Yes.
and Nick Watts of all people, you
Yep.
know, and how like
Nick at Night.
I think about I think what started this for me. Obviously, I was lucky. I grew up in the church, but as an adult, was the spiritual leader.
Correct.
My spiritual leader is a pastor, youth minister. And I thought, well, I'm never going to be a pastor or youth minister. And I kind of, the more I like,
Better careful how you say that. When you
That's-
say never,
I know.
God will get you.
right? Well, that's the thing is, And so that I disregarded it. I said, well, I'm a Christian, but spiritual leader, blah, blah, blah. Well, I realized Dennis Seeley is a spiritual leader. Phil McLaughlin is a spiritual. Of course, now he's teaching and such. But these men, I accentuate men, David Baker, that were involved in my church when I was a kid, were spiritual leaders. Right.
Right.
There's no. So I immediately assumed I had to be a preacher or had to be a youth minister to be a spiritual leader. And the spiritual leader is the man of his household, the guy who leads by his actions to be a spiritual leader. And I found that pretty powerful. So,
Well, it's just like we've had D now in our houses for close to 20 years.
wow, I didn't know it was 20 years. Wow.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you've ever been at our house, one of our houses for
So
Tino.
20 years ago, I was 18, and no, so that's an easy no. I mean, 16, 17, 18, I can care less about church. A mistake on my part, but, it was just a time I wasn't ready. But, before that,
I think your brother was at our house.
yeah,
though.
I'm sure, yeah.
And so we've had kids in our house for D now and different ones and stuff. And now they like to come, especially the seniors like to come and use our pool and,
Yeah.
and stuff. So they typically give us the seniors. We've had as many as 21 kids in our house
No
for
way.
D now, and stuff. So
What about, so that's part of my question is Calvary. Well, I'm a new member of. Obviously, I grew up at First Baptist with you guys. But Calvary voted Sunday, 83% vote yes to sell the property and build out south. And so it had been speculation before, and I know as my position, I know more about the situation. But now it's public information. It's voted on and done.
yeah.
And so I was curious some of your thoughts on that transition from old downtown Grand Prairie to you're not South Grand Prairie, but you're south compared to back in the day and south compared to where you were, about that church moving and I mean, it's been only a couple of years, right? 3 or 4 years.
Well, I think now that First Baptist has already done it, and I think y'all will reap some of the benefits that we've done it when we're growing, and then y'all have seen
Growing
seen
pains.
that.
Yeah. The
No,
growing,
it's not really pain. It's
Well,
been
I'm saying-
fantastic
right. We'll see
that it's worked.
and we can learn from your actions as well.
Right, but you'll see that, man, that has really been a good thing, because we have, since we've moved, we've had average until COVID hit. We had I think it was like it was a crazy number of like 3 to 4 a week join.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
And now then this year, even now that COVID is here, we still have, it's the numbers are still like 3 or 4 a week
Yeah. Wow.
that have come up, and
Y'all have two.
services
Two
still.
services, right?
Yes. And now they're online.
We
Now we
talked
still have
about-
people attending, but we still have a really good number online, and we still have people are giving online, and so our numbers are still good where they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so our next phase is going to be to build a family life center.
Ho, 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 ho.
And so we're waiting for, we're not going to do it without the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we still want, we're waiting for, we still need a couple more to
Do it
get us
right.
to do it right.
Man, I'll tell you, First Baptist or Family Life Center at First Baptist, that was my life. I grew up that directly behind there, and so Clay was a good kid. I wasn't, and without that Family Life Center, it could have been a lot worse. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
And I just found that so valuable.
Oh, yes, absolutely. As a father of 4, young ones growing up.
Yeah.
And that was our Friday night thing, is
Yeah.
to go up there. You know, I remember when they used to have roller skating and all kinds
Yeah.
of craziness.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was a hoot for us to go up there and spend and have a place to go do all that. You know, that's didn't last forever, but you know,
I have a goal of being a family life minister. If that makes any sense. I don't know even how to do that or what that entails, but that is something that would like enthrall me to the end, because I just have the memories of Larry Liner and David Schlichter and what was the other, Paul Stutz, you
Yeah.
know, those guys running that Family Life Center, and that's all I wanted to do, be a part of that. So I hope that happens for you guys. And we have a gym up there now, but we're not. I don't think they're going to have a gym immediately when we move over there. Of course, we're
Right.
still a year or so out, but that should be interesting if that's motivation enough. What it takes to build a gym, right?
money.
Yeah, and part of the reason they're moving is because we have so much facility and so little people, and
Right.
so why build a gym immediately when you got to build those numbers up? But yeah, that's so for you sounds like there's no second guessing that move at all, and that's not what I'm looking for.
No, the thing
but-
is, it's difficult when you've got, for us back then, because we had a lot of, you know, a lot of the big money people at the time at First Baptist were all in that part of the neighborhood and everything. And
Tradition.
it was a real struggle. But once they actually started tearing that building down and just seeing how bad a shape it was underneath, the structure wise, it was like, man, this is scary. You know, that we didn't get out here sooner than what we did.
Right.
And how nice this new facility is. A lot of those people were like, oh man, let's get back in here and stuff. But it is,
That's good to hear,
We
actually.
were really, and a lot of people came back that were fighting it at first, but it's such a great new facility. And
I imagine that makes all the difference in the world. I think I'm 100% for our move, and I voted for the move. But I'm also, this is downtown Grand Prairie. This is the center. What's the difference between preaching
well,
there?
when you say center, you
No
got to
longer-
remember, no
you're-
longer center. Center Grand Prairie is, you know, we're not even in the center of Grand Prairie anymore.
Nope.
We're actually north of center of Grand Prairie.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
because the center of Grand Prairie is,
You're exactly
you
right.
know, is a lot further.
It's like 26 miles long.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot further south than people realize.
yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, Poteet was my guy growing up, and then when
Yeah,
Scar
love
came,
that guy. And
it
now
was
Poteet loves us, and Poteet is with us and says,
Oh, is he?
yes,
I didn't know
he
he
preaches there all the time.
Does he really?
And he said, you know, he backs the move and said this
Yeah.
is what should have been done, and he's a wonderful man, and
So-
his wife, and he comes up there, he preaches every now and then.
You had First Baptist, First Methodist, and Calvary. And I'm just going to, this is just comments. I don't know the accuracy of it, but you had three major churches right next to each other.
Right.
First Baptist is gone. Calvary leaves. I wonder if the Methodist has an opportunity to flourish, or they're going to leave as well. And by the way, there's 3 or 4, maybe even 5 other very small churches on Church Street, right?
That's
They're
why it was Church Street.
Yeah. And so there's still small churches here, but those are the 3 big ones. And we're a year out, and then it'll be a couple of years after that before you see what the effects are. I always have this thought of, why do you have to go somewhere to preach? Why
Well,
can't you
now,
preach?
what is that on Gateway, or what is it down in there?
Oh yeah,
You know, they've grown a lot.
they have.
You know.
And I know a lot of folks who were, I want to say, politically involved in the church, because that's, I don't know if we talked about it when we started off, but you know, the politics of church can be pretty tough. But I know guys that were involved politically in churches that are no longer involved politically in churches, but go to there because they can just go, get filled up with the word, and get out of there. I'll argue you need to serve as well, and maybe they do. I'm not. That's not what I'm getting into, but seems to be a hit. And I didn't think it'd be right there in our backyard. Do they have a preacher, or do they video it in? I think somebody told me they video in a preacher. You have any idea?
I've heard of a lot of it gets videoed in.
Could you do that?
So
Could you do that?
it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
And I like to be involved.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, we do D now, and we do a lot of stuff, and we're there for the choir. Choir comes over to our house and uses our house.
Oh, good.
I mean,
Serving.
we have the youth team that they use our house for a lot of different stuff because it's not really our house.
Yeah.
It's God's house, and we got our house on a short sale, and so all the time there's different departments that comes over and uses our house.
Okay.
And uses our pool.
Very cool.
And our choir comes over and uses our house, and so we love our church. We love serving the Lord, and we could not have. That house is bigger than what we need.
Yeah.
And God provided it, and so like I said, it's His, and so we pretty much, if you want to say, Lord, this is your house, and when we say that, we mean it, and so we use it however it needs to be used, and so we've hosted several church events there for not just our Sunday school department, but for the youth
All throughout.
And so when Mike Inman, who's the youth director up there, says,
Yeah, I've met
"Hey,
him.
can we bring the kids over and use your pool?" Sure, bring them on over. And so they've come over there and used it at different times and stuff. Even though we don't have any kids involved in it anymore,
Yeah.
they come over and use it because we've got a big backyard and in the pool and all that stuff. And so we're still involved in that direction of doing it, and we don't mind because we're here to serve them, and it's the way that we can still do it and be a part of it without kids, because we love kids.
Church is something that's been a part of my life as long as I can remember, and my main reason is because it was across the street from my house. It's a big part of who I am.
And you were drugged there by your parents.
Well, you say that, but my parents weren't that involved. I mean, they really weren't. They're Christians, but it literally was across the street. Right. So I'm saying this to say, just go to church. But thing is, if you enjoy going to church, you're going to enjoy serving even more. And there's a difference. Showing up on Sunday, getting your word and leaving is one thing, and I want everybody to do that. It is a healthy way to live your life.
But you won't get the blessings that you get.
But when once you decide to serve your fellow man, even if the fellow man is your fellow Christians around you, or going outside of your church and serving, it changes the ball game completely.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not serving right now. You know what I mean? And people say, "Oh, I've heard, oh, you're such a good guy, Cole. You do this, you do that. That's cool." I mean, that's not. It's almost weird hearing that, and it's flattering. Don't get me wrong, but that fills me up. I mean, I'm kind of doing it for me, right?
Right.
And of course you're able to help others and so forth.
Well, you learn the blessings you get for it. You learn those. It's almost like it's like when you work out and you get the endorphins out of it.
Yeah, buddy. It feels great.
Yeah, it does. It's the
What do you
same
mean?
thing. It's the same thing when you're serving the Lord, you're going to get blessings out of it. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's a different kind of endorphin. It's your blessings you get from it.
Yeah.
God's going to bless you in ways you don't think about. And He says He's going to do that. And so if you just go do it, you're going to get blessed.
There's no doubt.
And you don't worry about it, you're going to get blessed. So you don't think about it. You just say, "Okay, Lord, what do you need me for? Go do it." And you're going to get blessed. And so you don't know what kind of endorphins it's going to be.
No,
So you just go do it.
Yeah. David, man, I appreciate you sharing everything with me. From raising your kids to having an accident, to fighting back, to the church aspect and being a good Christian, spiritual leader. I mean, that's kind of paramount above all this. I mean, that you were doing that before and after, and it's like, why God do this to me? And here you are telling the story. I think it's a great story, man. I hope people listen to it. And I really appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Not a problem. I've seen you grow and still growing.
Yeah, still working on it. Hey, and Dave's, I wrote down pen and wood. David's Pen and Wood. Go
Right.
check it out. He's not making any money off of it. He just enjoys doing it. That's why it's a beautiful piece. So,
Yeah. And they're, they start at $25 and go up to $100 or whatever, depending on what kind of pin you want. But there's also some cross stitch stuff, and there's things, where you take the, I don't know what you call it, where you take the thread stitch out, and
What about just
shavers and things like that.
simple woodwork, ball pins? I get it. That'll be fun, man. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
All right, man.
It was fun, man.
Yes, sir.